But that one, there's a ton of Mexican editions out there. And this one, they look almost exactly the same, except there's a little word bubble that's in Spanish. But everything else looks the same, like Spawn's word bubble is in Spanish. I didn't look at that. I made an offer on the book, and then I went back and I was like, oh, crap, this is a Mexican edition. I don't want this. But the guy made a counter offer, so I just declined it, and I was like, whew, got away with that one.
Oh, well, see, I wasn't that lucky. I just bought it straight out then and there, sat down to read it, and I was so devastated.
I bet.
So devastated. I couldn't read German, and I was like, no, I'm done with this. I'm going to go cry for a bit.
Hello, everyone. This is BUB'S Comics here with the No Faces Comic Chat. You getting hear a little of our pre-chat yakety yak.
Back.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Roger. We need that. Tonight we are the No Faces Comic Chat with the penny pinching dollar spenders. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll take it.
Yeah. That describes me to a T.
Yeah. DS doesn't like it because there's not enough of the alliteration he formerly hated.
No, I like the alliteration. This one doesn't do anything for me.
Penny pinchers? Penny pinchers?
Yeah, but then he's got penny and dollar in the same sentence. There's no alliteration. I feel like it was a lazy title. But
thank you. I appreciate that. Not only for the
I can tell it's going to be a tough chat tonight, man.
Yeah, knock against my character in creating the title was the extra mark that we all enjoy.
When you're getting down on the title right before we even start, it's going to be a rough one.
Well, today with us, as unfortunate as ever, is DS Comics.
Everyone.
Yeah. A wet blanket in your fire of life. And then next we have Roger. Say hello, Roger.
Greetings, everyone.
There you go. And with us, all the way from Minnesota. Wait, is it Minnesota? Where's he from? North Canada, southern East Iceland. Here from East Iceland is our favorite Scottish Scotlander. Sure. Here from the Highlands. Yeah, I don't know where are you? We have Comic Geek McD. Say hello.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. No problem. You'll regret that. Welcome from Scotland. You know, I've been missing. One of the things that prompted me is funny because DS had mentioned it just a moment ago about how he always felt like Comic Geek McD had been on this chat before, and I actually had thought he had already been on the chat myself because when I went to send him the invite, I didn't have his email, and I thought for sure that I had already had it and that he had already been on the chat. And then I also realized that because he normally does a Tuesday night chat with JPL Flash, that I was kind of missing him. And I was like, well, I haven't got my dose of Comic Geek McD this week. So there he is. So thank you for joining us and being a part of it.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I've always wanted to be on this show as well. So it's just a big honor for me. So really looking forward to talking to you guys and just having a laugh and hearing what you guys have to say. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Comic Geek McD, I have sort of a guilty pleasure on YouTube of going into live chats in the community and just not typing anything, and I just listen and enjoy it. And nobody ever knows I was there. I don't participate. Most of them I do, but some of them I don't, if I'm just putting on something for background. And I've done that a couple times with you guys. So I've watched a few of your shows, and I have been there, and nobody knew I was there. But anyway, they're very entertaining.
Yeah,
really
I do that too sometimes. So yeah, I do that as well sometimes. So you're not the only one, man. Like I do that too. So no, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I like it when you guys are on the chat together and I watch it on the rewind, and I'll watch it at 2x speed, and it looks like two bobblehead chipmunks laughing, like just in constant rhythm. Like you'll say something, and your head starts laughing, and then Dave's head starts laughing. It goes back and forth and back and forth. It'll do that for like 10 seconds on fast speed. So that's like 20 seconds, in real time.
I think after this shot, I'm going to try that out and see what that looks like.
Oh, it's hilarious. You've got to do it. You've got to do it.
Hey,
it's great.
Don't give McD any your bad habits, bud. Okay.
Hey, watch it at double speeds.
Watch it at normal speed. Well, yeah, come on.
Oh, it's great. Everyone's voice is a little bit higher.
Well, of course that is.
DS reaches a higher baritone or whatever the hell he is,
Oh my.
That's good stuff.
Hey, McD, I just wanted to tell you, look at the comics here that I have set up. This is I was at Reggie's trivia contest the other day, and I got like second place on an answer. 4-Way Flashers prize tagged me, and these are the 2 comics I picked. I picked these for you, McD, because I figured for my next contest video for you, I wanted to have appropriate McD comics.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I love those. Like, they're so cool. I really want to get some of the Batman Archie ones. They're cool.
So,
and I've never seen that Deadpool one before either.
And Steed and Mrs. Peel, the British Avengers.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
I like that.
So that was my whole mindset when they came in today. Reggie sent them. They came in today. So I didn't know you were going to be on today, but I figured that this is apropos and a half.
Yeah, man, I'm honored for that. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate that. And those are really nice comics, man.
Yeah, Roger, I really felt like we were outgunned in that trivia night on Reggie's trivia show because, man, there's some answers I knew right off the bat, and I start typing them, and then I look up after I hit enter, and like 17 people already put the answer in. And I'm like,
same
man,
thing.
What the hell? I think you and me were. Yeah, I finished like second on a couple of them, and you were in there, but we just.
I was second on 3 of them, and I was like third or fourth on another 2 of them. So I was like, forget it, at this point,
Yeah, I don't know how people are typing so fast, but that's why I said it's a young man's game, Roger. We're not able to hang with those live.
I know how they did it, but I couldn't do it. I saw a video where somebody said their strategy. They turn off everything in the house except for their phone, and they go text to speech.
Oh, okay. I don't even know how to do that. So
yeah, but I couldn't do that text to speech. It didn't work for me. It kept making babbling kind of typing, so I figured I'd just type it in.
Well, and it was accurate. Next we have
funny guy.
Roger.
You see what we got to put up with every week here, McD? Aren't you glad you're just a guest here?
It's 5th time on the show. What are you talking about? Roger, why don't you do me a favor and since you owe me one, right? Go ahead and holler off everybody in the chat here. We've got 14 people already watching.
Oh yeah, great looking chat today. Comics Addiction is in here. How you doing, buddy? The Greymon from over in the UK is here. Rayman, the Silencer Man, the flea market master himself. Our buddy Deadpool 2323, my old neighbor over there in Pasco County, Florida. Werewolf by Lunchtime. I tell you, that is like the best YouTube name I have ever heard. And I believe he's from Australia.
Yeah,
is in the chat. We got my guy from my old neighborhood in Miami-Dade, Hialeah Comic Bro. He just started being on a new live stream every Sunday, I think at 6 p.m. and it's all Floridians. So
I gotta check that out.
Definitely got to check that out. They kind of gave me an open invitation since I was been a Floridian for longer than they've been alive together. So I've been asked to go on there. Ed D Comics and Games, thank you for joining us. And of course, the ever prominent the one of the greatest ambassadors of our community, Silver Age Dave, is in the chat. Some guy named Comic Geek McD. Oh, Comic Geek McD's in the chat too. Costa Rican, my Puerto Rican brother, also a Floridian, is in the chat. Comic Collector, he's doing some really nice videos showing Archie comics, which nobody.
That was a great run,
wasn't it? Bigglesworth, I haven't seen him in a while in here. Welcome, buddy. Who else is in here? I already said. Oh, DS Comics, of course.
There's our other great ambassador of the comic community, Metarog.
Oh yeah, there's that guy. And last but not least, Mr. Gretzky 9966. This man is like a chat guru. He's like I don't know. There must be 3 or 4 of him because he's on every chat I've ever been on.
Look at Aaron down there. Deadpool 2323 says, I haven't bought a comic book in over a week. I'm going through withdrawals. I know what that feels like. It's been hours for me. Already in my boots here.
Listen, we need to have an intervention group. You, Deadpool 2323, Gray Man, you guys are all in denial. You're all saying, yeah, I'm cutting back. I'm going to keep it to this. Please, nobody believes you.
Gray Man says it in every single video, and I just watched one today. I didn't get through it all, where he bought 4 mystery boxes, And he keeps saying, no more books until I get a job. No more books, no more books.
Yeah.
And then he keeps pumping out videos with new books, which is awesome. I like watching them, but I can't do it either. I don't have any money for PCH right now for Golden Age stuff. I'm like saving up for Heroes Con. And I've got some other stuff being graded. And so I wasn't buying anything, and it was driving me crazy. So I just bought a bunch of bronze and copper stuff in the last 2 weeks. So I figure I might as well just buy some smaller stuff to get graded and flip because it's driving me crazy not getting anything.
I love it. I've been picking up a couple of my buying hiatus is officially over. It has been
starts.
Yes, it started and it ended when I got my grade on my Supergirl 23. So once I knew the grade on that, that's when the hiatus stopped because I needed to know what I was dealing with, you know. And that
have you announced that to YouTube yet?
I have not.
Okay.
It's a
Well, you just
2.5.
did.
We'll throw him off the scent. Hialeah Comic Bro says the beast needs to eat. Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. Yep. And the monkey on my back needs a diaper change. That's all true stuff.
Ooh, what a visual. Ooh.
Oh man. All right. Well, we're rolling right along. Let's talk about our topic for tonight. I'm sure no one remembers it because no one reads the emails.
Yeah, I remembered. I even made a list.
Oh, cool. Well, let's start with you, DS. Why don't you tell us the topic and then fire it off for us?
The topic was undervalued books or something to that effect.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was undervalued and underrated. I picked a few.
Either way, it's undervalued and overloved. Or wait, Roger, what is it?
Come on, man. Pick up the dollar books, spec books, whatever. You know, some
Yeah,
things
it's
that you
whatever.
think are worth more than what they're currently going for.
Well, yeah, I think I'll go first here. I'll give a little of my thoughts on it and then throw a few picks out. First of all, to me, there's a huge difference between undervalued books and spec books. Spec books, you know, speculation, that's picking up something that you think is going to pop short term and you can flip it real quick and get in and out and make some money. Sort of like, you know, it's like a day trading or arbitrage, some real quick flip. I don't do spec books, but undervalued stuff is stuff that are good investments in the short to long term. Depending on how long you hold it, the more you make, I think. And it's more of like this sort of a mid to longer term investment, but you can flip them right away. But there's some undervalued books that I look for that are undervalued when they're raw, but not necessarily when they're graded. And, you know, they're undervalued some when they're graded too, but you can pick up raw copies of some of these undervalued books way cheaper than you can pick up the slabs. So I made a little list here, and actually I put out these two. Well, actually all three of these that I'm showing I think are undervalued. The Marvel Team Up 141 has started to really pick up over the last year, but it's still sort of undervalued. You know, it ties with ASM 252 and Spectacular Spider-Man 90 for the first black suit. Those books are climbing steadily over the last several years. ASM 252 is, you know, up to $500-600 in a 9.8, and the raws are starting to go 75 to 100 in near mint grades, so they're getting pricey. The Secret Wars 8 is sort of ties into that. You can still, those are starting to get up into the $70 range, raw near mint copies, and the 9.8s are like $225. The Spectacular Spider-Man 90 is insanely hard to find in a near mint plus grade. Those go for a lot, $100. But the Marvel Team Up 141, I routinely pick up near mint copies of this book for $25-30 raw. I send them in, get them graded. Half of or more come back at 9.8. I usually get 9.6s and 9.8s on all the ones I buy. I'm very discriminating, but I'm paying $25-30 for them. It's insanely undervalued compared to the other ones in that grouping. So that's a really good one to pick up.
I tell you, just to mention it while you're talking about that book, I think that, and this isn't that book, obviously, this is the one you're talking about, but the Marvel, the Spectacular Spider-Man 90 is, I wish I had a copy real handy, but it is very tough to grade.
I'll grab it.
You got
Yeah,
one?
I was going to grab it, but Metarog's got one probably quicker.
He's always faster. Yeah, he's fast.
But yeah, I just picked up a near mint plus copy of that, and they're really hard to find. But go ahead about being hard to grade. I agree with you.
There's so many little. It's a lot of black on it, but there's also it's like a speckle, and there's dots. It's a cityscape with Black Cat and Spider-Man on it, and it just has so many little tiny spots where they make like lights that if you don't have a really, really good high-res copy on eBay to look through or something, or wherever you're buying from, it's very hard to see spine ticks or little, tiny pulls here and there. It's very, very busy cover.
There you go.
Roger, show that off there.
There you go. Yeah, what Bubba's talking about is on the spine here. You can see all those windows in those buildings, and then the action, the movement of Spider-Man there against that change of direction. So it's very hard to tell. He's absolutely correct.
And it goes all around the book, the top, the bottom.
On the back is the key. You got to find good back cover pictures, but you got to get on eBay on a computer, not on your phone, and you got to zoom way in and have really good pics from the seller. And the back cover, the top half is black and the bottom half is white. Makes it easier to see spine pics. But yeah, that front cover is a disaster. It's really hard to see. You need high-res pics. You need to zoom in. You really need to. Yeah, go ahead and say something, Roger, so we can. I guess yours is
sorry. Yeah, I'm showing the back cover here. It's Frogger. And what DS is saying is that, yeah, he's right. See how black that is? And then the bottom is white. So you got major contrast there.
Yeah, that would be good for bends and color breaking creases and stuff too. I love the black. The more black you can get around the border, the easier it is to grade.
Yeah, and the Marvel Team Up 141, the Secret Wars 8, the ASM 252, they're all real easy to grade because they just have solid dark colors along the spine for the most part. Now, there's a couple of these gun barrels on the Marvel Team Up, but it's pretty easy to judge condition on those. But the Spectacular Spider-Man 90, really tough to judge that from photos like on eBay. So you've got to be really discriminating. And when in doubt, I don't buy anything. That's my rule for like Copper Age stuff anyway. But, but yeah, that one, the only one of these in near mint raw that you can get, I think, cheap and way undervalued is a Marvel Team Up. Yeah, $25. I got this one. This one is not one that's, this will probably, there's a pressable defect on the top. It's got a little like ripple, but probably going to be a 9.4, not the highest grade ever, but I paid $20 for that. I got another one that's a 9.8 lock. I paid $35. Way undervalued book.
That's cool. I like that book too. It's a good book.
Yeah, 9.8 sell for $300. So even if you shoot for 9.8 and you're very discriminating and you really pass up on everything you're not sure about and just go for the ones that you think are definitely 9.8s, even when you fall short, if you're getting a 9.6, $150, and you're picking them up for $30. I mean, they're really undervalued. They're you get a 9.8 slab, it's not so much undervalued, but the raw copies, people just ignore them for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Maybe
what I was going to say about this book, guys?
Maybe it's Black Widow's leg. I mean, that thing goes on for days.
That one. But you know what? DS, this one is, to me, is an epitome of form over substance, because it's the same month as the other two, but he only appears once in a black costume on the last page.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, this is like a very lackluster appearance.
Well, let me tell you another undervalue that ties in, and we haven't even brought it up yet, but to me, it's a crucial element of that black costume set. You've got Marvel Team Up, the ASM 252, the Spectacular Spider-Man. Of course, the Secret Wars 8 is the origin and the first in continuity. And then the one nobody talks about is Web of Spider-Man #1. Doesn't tie for anything, but there's 5 Spider-Man titles, and the first black costume in all of them is key to me. And the Web of Spider-Man is another Spider-Man title. And Web of Spider-Man #1 with that great painted cover by Charles Bess. It's got the black costume right on it. It's not tied for first of anything, but it came out right around with these in 1985. And it's the first of the title, and it's the first black costume in that title. And those you can pick up for $10. That's undervalued too. And that's a much better cover than Spectacular Spider-Man 90. That cover sucks, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does.
The Web of Spider-Man 1 is the best cover out of all of them.
Yeah. That vest cover to me is blows away the other ones by far. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, the ASM 252 is more iconic, and people are going to just jump to the fact that yes, that's the better cover. But if you just take away all what they mean, the substance of them, what's the actual better cover? I think Web of Spider-Man 1 is the best of all of those, and then probably Secret Wars 8 is my second favorite. But yeah, I mean that's $10. I just picked up a Near Mint Plus copy of that recently for $10.
For the Web of Spider-Man 1?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I picked one out of the dollar bin about 2 or 3 months ago too.
I think it's picking up steam though, as all the black suit stuff has been. And now there's been recently some homage covers done of it. I think Web of Spider-Man started a new series too, or a new run recently, or something like that. So I think it's making a coming.
That's like every other month, Bub. I mean,
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I think in my personal opinion, the Web of Spider-Man 1 is definitely the best out of them all. But in my personal opinion, I still think that 252 comes second after that, just because I've always loved that cover for some odd reason. I know it's obviously iconic from Amazing Fantasy, but like it's just like obviously it's a kind of homage to it sort of thing. But I don't know. I've just always kind of liked that cover. For me, that's just my personal opinion. Whether that's true or not, I do agree with you though that the Web of Spider-Man 1 is definitely the nicest out of them all.
Yeah, and I do think the 252, although it's a direct cover swipe of the AF-15, is actually a better piece of art than the AF-15. Now, you have to just take away the historical significance of the two books. So yeah, I mean, that 252's got a kick-ass cover. I like the Web of Spider-Man and Secret Wars are my two favorites in that set, but they're all great except for Spectacular Spider-Man 90. That cover sucks.
I think there's actually a facsimile. I think there's a facsimile that's coming out on the 17th of this month of 252.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like a True Believers or something. You mean?
No, I think it's just a facsimile like that, and the Incredible Hulk that came out a couple of weeks back.
Oh, okay. So
181
back sort of copy of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that'll sell well. They'll sell those. I mean it's a good story. It's a classic, and you just want to. I'm gonna pick up.
I'm gonna pick up just because obviously I can't. Well, right now, me being a student, I can't afford that. So it's the second best thing I could get. It's the closest thing I could get. So
yep. You're still working at the shop, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, man. Okay. Just one day a week, and at college as well. So I do like cover and stuff like that, but it's difficult, especially when you have a hobby like this and you're just itching to get more books and you can't afford it.
Yeah. I love the way you say books. I tried to copy you on one of my videos, but I couldn't say books the way you say it. I couldn't.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was great. I love your impersonations, man. They're fantastic.
My favorite thing that I ever hear you say on your videos is Red Hood. That's Red Hood.
Hey, he went through a whole live stream without saying it. I was betting against you, McD, and you proved me wrong, buddy. You are awesome. You can do anything. Okay?
Almost slipped out, but thank you, man. It was hard. It was really hard.
Well, I'll just say that I love Spectacular Spider-Man 90 cover the best, probably.
That's a lie.
After it's true. After everyone's been picking on me, picking on that cover, I like that one the best because it's got Black Cat on it. And when I was earlier in my collecting, I had picked up that cover, and I thought it was Amazing Spider-Man 194 because it's kind of a similar placement of Black Cat on it. So I picked it up and grabbed it real quick, and then I was like, "Oh, well, that's what it is. It's 194," but it wasn't, obviously.
Did you not see the number here, Bub?
Yeah. No, I'm saying I thought it was. I didn't remember what Black Cat's first appearance was. I just remembered that it had Spider-Man and Black Cat on it. So that checked the boxes. So I picked it up.
Well, this is a Black Cat issue, really. It's not a Spider-Man story at all in there. I mean, I don't know how many people actually read their comics, but this has almost nothing to do with Spider-Man. Nothing.
It doesn't. But I mean, he's on the last page. But that book, the reason why that one is so valuable is really not the tying of the black costume. Honestly, it's just that that's so hard to find in nice shape. There's fewer 9.8s on the census than the other ones. But yeah, it's a far less significant first appearance than Marvel Team Up and 252, obviously. But man, that one's just super tough to find in nice shape for some reason.
Well,
and you can't judge the condition when you see them online. And it's just, I've tried. Look, I have never had a 9.8 of that book ever, and I have had lots of copies of it. And I've never been able to get a 9.8 of that copy. And I just bought one recently that I think it's a newsstand, just like that one. I think it's got a shot at 9.8. So. We'll see. It might come back 9.6. One day, even though I don't plan on keeping it, I want to own a 9.8 of that, which I will then sell. But
Take a
It's
selfie
still
with
something
it.
of a
Take
success.
a selfie with it, and you're gone. You're good.
Yeah, I just there's certain books I want, even though I'm planning on flipping them. I still want them because it's like I'm going after certain books because I want to own it to flip it, but I still want to be able to get the 9.8 in that, just so I can say I did it. But it's so hard.
Yeah,
I'd sell you this one, but it's only about a 9.2, I'm afraid.
Mine is a 0.2. I don't think it's terrible. Man, is it ugly.
Speaking about slabs, actually, I'm hoping by the end of this year, my goal is to get New Mutants 98, 9.6 or 9.8 if I can. I've never had a Grail in my life. I've never even held one before, not once.
Wow.
Yeah, you can do it. I mean, that's not out of reach for anybody, man. You should definitely be able to do it if you put your mind to it and budget and maybe flip a couple things. Yeah, that's not out of reach book.
Yeah, that's doable. I've actually found 2 New Mutants 98 in dollar estate sales in the past 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And one was I would say a 9.8 candidate. So it's doable. You know, this was before I was on YouTube, unfortunately, but if I had it, buddy, you know, I'd be sending it your way one way or another.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, what I would
and
suggest...
that one as well as actually this book as well, which I actually think is underrated as well. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, but I actually think that Batman 65, the first appearance of Jason Todd as Red Hood, is actually a very undervalued book.
Oh, I agree. Tell us why, though.
Because I think because for me, it's such an iconic. I love the cover, and I think the story, because obviously it's under the Red Hood, and it's actually the first time that we actually got introduced after he died as Jason Todd, and we got introduced from that and seeing him as Red Hood for the very first time. I think for me, as reading that book as well, was just a very iconic thing for me. It's just a very personal book. I'm a major fan, so it's kind of sentimental to me. And that's actually something else I'm looking for is a 9.6 or a 9.8 of that as well. I'm hoping to try and get that.
You got that in a contest, didn't you?
I won. I was actually in Reggie's contest, actually. Yeah. I won eBay dollars off of him, which converted into pounds for me. And then I bought this book as soon as I got it. It was on my to-do list, and I managed to pick up just the raw copy because I couldn't afford, obviously, the graded one. But I am definitely looking for that.
Forget about those graded things. Forget about that. That's not for real comic collector. I'm just kidding. They're good stuff. But let me tell you that one thing I've liked about this comic, I have seen it before. That cover is beyond awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, well, maybe that's the Joker, you know, like he was in the Golden Age. He was a veiled Red Hood, but that comic there is, I mean, that's that Batman coming down, and then he's got that dagger coming over. I mean, that is just, and that flapping cape in the wind with the lightning in the background.
With the lightning, yeah, it's iconic, and the fact is about they didn't use the Red Hood, Jason Todd Red Hood. They used the iconic, you know, like you were saying, the Joker one. Mm-hmm. I just love that cover as well. It's fantastic. Not just that, but the writing itself. Like, this is probably one of the most important Red Hood books, I would say, out there. It's my top favorite by far. And you know, obviously, it being the first appearance is nice too. So
what's the value of that? I'm not familiar with that book. That's a little more modern than stuff I follow. But
for Raw, I think it's like. Well, for me in the UK, it's like £40, which I'm guessing for you guys is like $60 for Raw. For like graded 9.8, it goes up to like 300 to 200.
Okay, yeah, so that would be cheap for a Raw then. That would be undervalued. Just that's a huge spread between the Raw and the graded for your mints.
Because when I've looked on like eBay and stuff, for me, I'm looking at £200 to £300 to pick up a 9.6, 9.8. And the difference between 9.6 and 9.8 is at least 150, 100 to 150 anyway, difference. So, I think it's very underrated. It's very underrated and very undervalued. I'm just a big Red Hood fan, so I'm going to be biased anyway, regardless if you agree with me or not. Well, I just love Red Hood.
You are a Red Hood expert. Remember that, a Red Hood expert.
Thank you, man.
You're a fan, but you're also a Red Hood expert, and that have credence, right? Because like me, I've been touting Deathlock for years, and everybody's been saying you're crazy, Metarog. Now all of a sudden, everybody's looking for Deathlocks.
Yeah.
I got like 5 of them out of the $1 bin. You know.
Oh, nice, man.
So, you know, so you're an expert, not just a fan. You're an expert.
I don't know. There's just something about him that really speaks to me. I think it was just because I was just a little punk when I was a kid. So, and Jason's kind of like that too. So, he's the black sheep of the Bat family. So that's who I am.
Well, I think that's a great choice. And I know DS right now, he's writing down the name of that book, and he's looking at the corners, thinking, you know what? They got a nice dark border.
Well, I'm thinking that's going to be an easy book to judge from photos, and it's new. It'll be an easy one to find in a super high grade. So I will definitely look into it.
This is going to be controversial, but actually, what do you guys think of this?
Oh man!
Oh, boy.
I'm only joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, let's see. Here's one that is been popping up a lot. And that's first appearance of Bloodshot, right?
Ooh, nice.
And I think that this, yeah, that's a pretty one too. And it's I guess there's a glossy version and a not glossy version. This is the glossy one, but I don't really know what the difference is or why. There were 2 different gloss finishes on the book, or maybe it denotes a second print or something like that. But anyway, this is the glossy one, and I think what's interesting about this book is that this was a book that I had never heard of, and Bloodshot was not a character I knew anything about. But thanks to the magic of YouTube, right, that I had been watching a lot of people's videos last year, a lot of people were picking these up. I was like, well, what is that? And I saw one in a $1 bin, so I snagged it. And you know, that was it. Now you're kind of hard pressed to find these at that price. They're getting higher and higher and higher, and I guess there's a movie coming out soon too. But I don't know if that makes it undervalued, or it used to be undervalued, now it's properly valued. But I think sometimes it kind of makes it overvalued because, you know, it's a really cool cover, and I think that's what brings it home, you know, and it's very, you know, Japanese looking. So I don't know if it's really undervalued though.
We've had some controversy in the chat here.
Oh boy.
AG Surfer when I think this is for you, McD. When he saw the Major X, he's like, "Where's the feet?"
Yeah, exactly. Actually, there's a panel in here which I just need to show, because even though I'm a massive Deadpool fan, I love Deadpool, and obviously Rob Liefeld was the creator. I'm not a big Rob Liefeld fan. I'm really not. There's 2 reasons why. One, he can't draw for anything, and the other reason is because well, actually, there's 3 reasons.
There's more than that.
He can't draw. He's not very nice as a person, and he overcharges like insanely amount. Like, there's a panel in here which just makes me want to cry. Where's his shoulder? Why is his gun pointing away from the guy? Like, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, it looks like the arm's coming out of his back.
Yeah, like it's so what? I couldn't stop looking at that, guys. Like, it was.
Oh man,
that's terrible.
We on the Graders Note chat, we lambasted Liefeld. I mean, we absolutely crucified. We burned him up. We drawn and quartered him. I mean, the man's ears must be on fire.
Well, did you see as well on Twitter as well, like his rant about it was Spider-Man Deadpool 47. And I can't remember the artist that did it, but basically he had got permission from Marvel to use any character he wanted. And there's like a cameo appearance where you can see him just in the background, Major X, and he's fallen down. And yeah, Rob Liefeld just went easy. I've never seen like a grown man throwing the dummy out the pram that hard. Like, he was just acting like a 6-year-old child, and it was really quite cringy. And yeah, he's not a very nice person, and I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan.
Yeah, he created a couple good characters.
Major X, I just threw up in my mouth.
See, as well, I also think that this Deadpool here, this from Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness, the Ed McGuinness art and the Joe Kelly writing. Without Joe Kelly's writing, you would never ever have the Deadpool that you have today. I think this is the man that really set Deadpool on the way of being Deadpool, what he is today. And I think he's very undervalued and he's very underrated. And I think if there was two panels and someone had a gun to my head and said, right, which one are you going to, Rob Liefeld or Joe Kelly? Without a second of a doubt, I would go to Joe Kelly.
I tell you though, I met Fabian Nicieza. If that's how you pronounce his name.
I have no idea how to pronounce his name. He wrote New Warrior, but I've met him, and I don't know how to pronounce his name.
And he is Deadpool. When you talk to him, it is his personality coming through. He's a dick, but he is funny. Like, you know, it really is. Like, I mean, because really nobody, if you ever see Deadpool in a panel with anyone else, everyone's just tolerating him at best. Right. You know, no, and that's the way Fabian was. Everyone was just tolerating him, and yet it was funny. If you weren't the one talking to him, you were laughing at everything he said. And then when you're the one talking to him, you're like, "Oh, really? How much more of this do I have to endure?" You know. So, but he really was, you know. And you've heard, you know, Liefeld even say himself, "Oh, if you think, you know." That what you like about Deadpool is that he eats tacos and breaks the fourth wall and says stupid stuff, then yeah, that's all Fabian. But if you like how he looks and how he's badass, that's me. I'm like, well, honestly, if he was just another gun-toting badass, then there would be nothing special about him.
Yeah, exactly. Like as well, he done it as a joke against Deathstroke. For some odd reason, he thought that Deathstroke was a funny character to kind of rip off. Don't know why, because Deathstroke is probably one of the coolest villains in DC, in my opinion. And not just that, but he's an artist that can't draw hands or feet. Like, if you're going to try and rip off a character, at least try and draw well.
Or shoulders, apparently.
Oh, or shoulders, apparently. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, for me, even though I'm a big Deadpool fan, I would really just I would avoid like the plague Liefeld. Just
and he's from Scotland. He knows about those plagues back in the history.
You're not lying, man. You're not lying.
Yeah, I think you're preaching to the choir here, buddy. I don't think there are a lot of Liefeld fans over here.
No, you're not going to find many, really, anyway.
Of course, I'm begrudgingly picking up the whole set. I don't know why. I just think that maybe it will be like a New Mutants 98 where it might pick up sometime soon. Who knows? But I'm not reading them. I refuse to read them. After that panel, I was like, no, I'm not doing it anymore.
Well, what about the books that kind of fall in between, like this one? This is Adventure into Fear, or Fear really is the name of the title. So Fear number 10. With the Man-Thing, because some people say, oh, Savage Tales 1, first appearance of Man-Thing, right?
Yeah.
But to me, this book is hugely undervalued. I think for a key, what I think is more of a first comic appearance of Man-Thing, this should be higher on the list.
Well, that's his first, solo series.
It's a really nice cover as well.
And it's is that a Plug cover?
No, I forget who it is, but I know it's not
Ray
Plug.
Morrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Green Morrow. Okay, so it has a really nice cover. I've always liked that cover, and that particular series, Fear, sprung into his self-titled series. So I agree with you. I think that to me is the more key Man-Thing appearance.
Yeah, I agree that that's more key from a historical standpoint, but. I think the two Man-Thing keys that are undervalued, I agree that one is also Man-Thing number 1, the Frank Brunner cover, the first of the self-titled runs. Mm-hmm. That one has a lot more interest in it than the Fear 10, just because neither one is the first actual appearance of him, and the Man-Thing 1 with the Frank Brunner cover. That one's there's a lot more interest in it, and I think both of them are going to rise over time. But yeah, that one you're showing now, Roger, that one I think is going to rise more than Fear 10, ironically, even though it came after it.
It is a really well drawn cover, a very detailed. Look at the swamp, look at the spines, look at the flowers. It is really nice. It's almost like a portrait, kind of cover.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for the Fear 10, but I'm looking for this one, and I'm trying to find really minty copies of it. raw for a decent price to get slabbed. And I'll tell you, it's really hard to do. I can't find anything that's above like a 9.0 at a reasonable price. And there's very few that are 9.4 or higher at all on any price. So if you can find a really nice copy of that, even in the 8.5 range, I think it's a keeper. It's a really good book. That's tough to find in good grades. 8.5 is, if you can find a nice 8.5 of that for a good price, it's a good book to pick up.
Yeah, the 20 centers I'm finding are kind of tough to find and better grades. I don't know if just age is getting to them, but 20 centers are getting, to me, really tough to find in really nice shape.
Yeah, I feel like the DC 20 centers are easy to find in high grade. I find them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then the Marvel 20 centers are beat to hell all the time. I don't know why there's such a difference between the two.
I don't know. It could be the paper that was being used. I mean, I find that anything lower than 25 cents, like when they started the 25-cent Starburst and things of that nature, everything below that on Marvel side, I always find with dog ear creases, things like that.
Yeah.
Like this one here is a really, really pretty copy. And then you have that big color breaking crease right there, goes across the corner of the book. And I swear every Marvel title that I pick up, that's 20 cents, 25 cents, really anything under 30 cents seems to have that crease somewhere in it, you know, or there's a tear right here where someone has pulled the page and it ripped through the middle. So maybe it just has a thinner paper stock.
My copy. I think you might be right about that.
It's tough. You know, the older books are always hard. And that's why for some of those books, there's such a big, spread, if you will, between the 9.8s or the 9.6s and the rest of the copies, because there's just less of them out there, I think.
Yeah, but the DC companion to that, I guess, would be like Swamp Thing #1, and I believe that's a 20 center. Roger can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have one in front of me, but
no, it is. It's a rights and cover 20 center. Yeah.
Yeah, those you can find near mint copies of that left and right. They're abundant. It's easy to find a 9.2 or a 9.4. Grade of Swamp Thing, but the Man Thing is just impossible to find in good grades. It's really hard. But the Swamp Thing, I find them all the time. It's just a matter of price, but there's a lot of them out there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, that's DC though. You know, that's the difference between DC and Marvel, huh?
Yeah, they were about even in popularity back then. I'm trying to remember. I was young back then. But I seem to remember that there was evenly split pretty much between Man Thing and Swamp Thing and school. People were kind of in one camp or the other, but it was equally split. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Because, back then they were in the spinner wraps, you would bend them down and that would create the creases right here across the middle of the comic. But I don't remember Swamp Thing being like, one of those remainder, that would have a lot of remaindered copies or anything like that.
Centauri Stir Fry says nowadays he encapsulates his giant-sized Man Thing. So that's
Werewolf by Lunchtime said that, and I was like, good one, and now here it goes. That's a big running joke in the comic. Like they didn't think that through, you know what I mean? When they had the Man Thing, and then they started the giant-sized titles afterwards, and somebody didn't really put two and two together there,
Well,
I'm so glad that somebody brought that up because I was just laughing quietly for the longest time there.
I can show you my giant-sized Man Thing if you want. I have it.
No.
No, I'm
good. I tell you, I just going to throw a quick plug out to Mike, Area 51 Mike. I know Stir Fry already has, but check out my NECA video that I did, NECA figure review that I did last time, because I had both Area 51 and Centauri Stir Fry in mind when I did that video, because they do great videos for figure reviews and I never do them. So, I was just basically trying to imitate those two guys as much as I could to get through it, So check out that video and then check out those guys too. Good stuff. Bake the Snakes in the house too. Man, we got a lot of people. Mastodon Comics and Collect. Oh man, where you been, Roger? Azkaban's here. Oh man,
I've been looking for my giant-sized Man Thing.
Well, if you have to look that hard, it ain't giant size. Just saying.
It was at the back of the box.
Well, I trip over it looking for a box. Let's see. We got the Gray Man still in the chat, and hi, Aaliyah. This is great. You guys are doing great.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah, I've noticed prices on that giant-sized Man Thing starting to climb too. I think that's going to end up being one of the classic covers from the Bronze Age, because I've noticed people are paying for that. The prices are going up. There's a lot of people have it on their list. It's a popular book.
This is a great Plug cover on #1 here with the glob. Unfortunately, mine is missing a big chunk up there, but
Bub's favorite bronze horror artist right there.
Yep,
he's good. He's good. He does monsters better than he and Bruner. I think are the two big monster guys. Really, really cool. And Wrightson too. But.
I know it's not real popular, but as far as being a big Plug lover, but his interior work, I really enjoy his interior work. I felt like the color, I know obviously colorist is involved, but the lack of detail behind the characters, kind of a throwback, and it really helps with the intensity of a scene. I really like the design that he put into each panel on the interiors of those books. Just fantastic stuff.
And he's an underrated.
That migrated to his Ghost Rider work too. I mean, he did a great job.
Yeah, I had an issue of it was either Heavy Metal or Creepy or something, some Warren publication, I think. And one of the issues had like a 5 or 6 page thing about Plug, and it had sketches of his from different stuff, like non-comic book sketch stuff, just like his art, like a little mini portfolio inside the magazine. Really top-notch stuff. It's different than they had stuff that was different from his comic book stuff. It's stuff that you wouldn't normally see, but I think of his original art. I mean, probably I don't follow original art, but his original art when it comes to auction, I bet sells way more comparatively valued than his comic books. Because I imagine people who appreciate his art will really pay up for his original art more than just people are paying for the comic books. But I haven't researched that. That's just a wild guess, but I'll bet you it's right.
I would take that. I think he's still alive too. He just he just doesn't do anything. Like he doesn't do any cons or anything like that.
He's got to be pretty old at this point.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
And I would lump in with Plug as underrated bronze artists. I would put Louis Dominguez in there. Most people don't know who he is.
Oh man, yes,
really fantastic work for DC.
His black and white horror mags are beyond the pale.
Yeah, and he's got some really good covers on like House of Mystery and House of Secrets, and some good interior stuff. And and then also Ernie Chan. Nobody ever talks about him.
Well, he was on DC, so mostly. So that's why they don't talk about him. But talk about he and Gil Kane are the two like most prevalent Bronze Age artists. He's on like every other cover between the early 70s and the early 80s. Amazing amount of work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Ernie Chan does so much stuff that people recognize, but they don't know it's him, and most people don't even recognize his name. And I just sometimes I'll just research a random artist from the Bronze Age. And just look into what they have, and it's really cool to do that. Just scroll through on eBay until you see a cover that's somebody you don't know and it looks kind of cool. See who the artist is, and then go research the artist and see what else they've done, and you'll find out. You're like, oh yeah, I know that one. Oh, that one. And you're like, yeah, this artist is really good, and you might start picking some stuff up. I did that with Louis Dominguez not too long ago, and made a whole list of everything he did. And he's, people know Nick Cardy. There's Wrightson, and under him there's like Nick Cardy and Louis Dominguez.
Here are a couple Ernie Chan covers right here. He did the first few Secret Society of Supervillains. By the way, a fabulous Bronze Age series. If anybody wants a great definitive kind of read in the Bronze Age DCs, this is the one to get, guys. 15 issues. Now look at this. He really did a nice cover layouts, kind of different the way that he did his characters and the way that he had them in action poses. Really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah, he reminds me of some of the Silver Age artists, his artwork. It's almost like a carryover of like a Kirby style or something, or some Ditko in there.
A couple of big hands coming at you. I like that.
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm not a Nick Cardy fan. I just feel I appreciate the work that he did, because it's a lot of the books that I pick up happen to be Nick Cardy covers, but they're okay. But I always feel like they're filler books. Like I can't think of a single Nick Cardy cover that I'm like, actually some of his Superman stuff's not bad and Batman stuff, but especially on the Marvel side, I just don't gravitate towards his stuff. I don't know. I know that's just me.
Century Stirfry says, I swear Raj wears a trench coat filled with comics. He's quick on the draw.
I know, that's why I didn't even bother getting up to get that Spectacular Spider-Man 90, because you got up and I'm like, well, Metarog has it right there. He'll have it in 2 seconds. So I don't even have to get up for the book. I'll just let Roger do it because he has it instantly.
Hey, I'm in the meta cave of gratitude, man. It's all at my fingertips here.
I'm always amazed that you can just like pick them up that fast. Like if it was me, I'd be digging through that box trying to find it. You're always so like on the ball, Roger. Like you're always just you manage to get them so quickly. So
I'm blushing, McD. I'm blushing here.
I tell you, I love to get comics out, but I hate to put them away.
Oh,
so
yeah, man.
Anytime anyone else is willing to pull out a comic that I don't have to pull out, I'm happy about that, because I just know my stack to put away is like, as high as an elephant's eye, and I don't want to add
anything
to it.
I can do to have the community involved and see stuff and expand their horizons, I'm all for.
There's a book here, Bub, that I thought you might like actually as well. But one of them, the one that I chose was the Batman Adventures Holiday Special with the Mr. Freeze story. This actually won an award as well for I think it's one of the best single issues, and it's got one of the best Mr. Freeze stories, like in my personal opinion, ever told. And I think this is a very underrated book. I personally I am a major fan of the Batman animated series. Obviously, this is what it's based off, Batman Adventures. And I think this book is so underrated. It's such a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do. Anyone in chat or anything, or if you guys haven't, then definitely check it out because it's really, really good. Right. I don't know whether you have this one, Bob, or not.
I do not, and I want that book very badly. I do.
McD, you better lock the doors tonight.
I've been lusting after that book for some time. The reason that I haven't picked it up yet is because we were talking last week about uphill collecting versus downhill collecting, and I've had a lot of comments, by the way, DS, on that beautiful way of illustrating that point that we were talking about, and so that run for me, the Batman Adventures run, represents when I stopped doing that. So I have a near complete run of the Batman Adventure series, the Volume 1, and then some of the specials. I don't have that special yet. And the reason is because when I realized that I needed to stop collecting those smaller books in price, that is, and focus on getting Batman Adventures 12 so that then I could start the downhill run. And that book is on my downhill run, obviously much less in price than Batman Adventures 12.
Yeah, that's the book I'm after too, and it's steadily going up higher and higher and higher, and
it is.
When you were on I think the last chat when I was watching the last time, you were talking about that as well, and I could not agree with you more. It's one of these books that you begrudgingly want, but it's like it just keeps on going higher and higher, and you're not sure whether to get it now or just to wait, or I don't know. It's a hard choice to kind of make, and it's begrudgingly so that because you want to get it, but it's like, do I want to spend that much money? And it's it's hard.
I think it'll drop.
Do you think so?
Yes, I do. I think it has already moved a little bit, just slightly. It's ready for the drop. I think it's about at its peak, and it's ready to take the turn. I'd say and I'm talking about in a matter of months.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I think that when the first trailer for the Harley Quinn's Emancipation Declaration of Constipation, or whatever the heck that sounds like one of my no-faces chat titles.
That teaser was, it was horrible.
It was rough. And I think that when the first full trailer, and I think that's what started its decline, and I think that when the first full trailer drops of that, and the world collectively goes, ugh, this is going to be rough, I think that will finish the decline of the Harley craze. And I'm not really trying to get that book because I'm a big Harley Quinn fan. I just want to finish my Batman run. So I think that teaser trailer that came out tipped the scale just a little bit, and the book started losing just a few bucks here and there. All of a sudden now you can pick up books between $250 and $300 that are in better condition than you could get them for at that price a year ago. And I think the Harley Quinn madness is basically over, and people are going to be sick of her by the time that second movie comes out, and that'll be Margot Robbie's last turn at the character, I think, too. So we'll see.
Well, I hope you're right, man, because I'm after that, because the Batman Adventures is something that's very dear and close to my heart. So I'm looking for them as well. This is the only book I have of Batman Adventures. I haven't even started my run yet, and I really want to, but I'm trying to get the bigger books first before I and then go on the downward to then picking them up, because I just think that's smarter.
Yeah, I think you're probably.
I don't want to interrupt, but we've had a lot of action in the chat. This has been one of our best chats ever. I mean, these guys are pouring in here. We've got some guys I haven't seen in a while. Seawood 19's in here. We got Steve Charlton 66 in here. Azkaban, I haven't seen him in a while either. Mr. Gurrell is in here. We've got some cooking in the chat today, guys. McD is a hit. That's all I can say. A hit.
And McD, I'm telling you, I think the New Mutants 98 and the Batman Adventures 12, they're sort of equivalent books. There's a lot of high-grade ones out there, and I think both of those prices will settle down to be about the same for each other. And I think there's a little more room to move on the New Mutants, and a little bit more room than that even to move on the Batman Adventures 12. I think they're both really solid keys, but I think that I agree with Bub, that'll settle down a little bit, and I can see that in New Mutants 98 both settling down, 9.8s around 500 to 600 range. I feel like that's where they're at. They're a step above the Cable and the Gambit and some of the other first appearances. 500 to 600 for 9.8. I could see them settling down to that for a while before, a decade later, they start becoming older and more collectible. But what you have going for you on picking them up is that there's tons of them out there. So all you need is a slight dip in that demand, and the supply will just crush that demand, and the price will drop, and you can pick up some nice copies for way cheaper than they are today.
Yeah, for sure, man. Because I'm looking for a second and third job. I think I've been wearing the same clothes since I was like 12.
Oh, so is DS.
Yeah, that's part of my strategy too. Yeah. Don't spend money on clothes.
You two are two peas in a pod.
Oh well, see, two great minds think alike, my friend.
Somebody in the chat asked. That's why I have this book up here about Sang-Ho Kim being underrated, and I totally agree. He does a lot of painted, kind of dark shaded, grayish covers. So I just figured I'd show a few of Sang-Ho Kim's work. That's all.
I don't know who that is, but that's cool art.
Yeah, let me get it focused on you. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like that.
He did mostly Charlton work. Steve's in the chat. Charlton 66. We should probably have him on sometime, because he is the absolutely mega uber Charlton expert, and he would know all about his history and the whole bit. But he did some really nice. I do agree, a very underrated artist that nobody knows about, because it's sort of like he was in Nepal. He was he's like a genius in Nepal that nobody knows about because nobody knows about Nepal. That same thing happened here. He's a genius, but he worked for Charlton, and not a lot of people. He didn't really come out too much from there.
Oh, it's good. I like it.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Hey, let me throw out an overrated book.
Yeah.
Just because I was thinking of it, and I don't think we've ever talked about this book, and I don't hear too many people talk about it anymore, but Walking Dead #1. If you are looking to pick up a copy of Walking Dead #1, wait, is what I think. I think that book is going to dive over the next 5 to 10 years into the doldrums. That's my personal opinion. I don't think it's worth what people are paying. There's so many copies out there, and the show is gone. That's going to fade into the background of popular culture. And that book is tied to that show. I do not think it's going to hold value very well at all.
I 100% agree. 100%.
I mean, it's still selling for like $1,000 at a 9.8, and that's insane to me. I'm just one dude who, sometimes doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. But my view of that book is I would stay away from it. If you want it, it's a cool book to own. I would wait several years and just pick it up for like $200.
I agree. I think what I do, I watch my son, and he's 15 now. But he's been pretty accurate along his early, before he was a teenager even. And I can tell you that if the kids aren't excited about the show, then you're not going to get that second bump in nostalgia that you need to carry that book's value going forward. whatever a kid is watching today, 10, 15 years from now, they need to be able to look back and say, I remember that. That's awesome. I'm going to get the comic book for that, and they don't have that. Now there's that for the Marvel movies and DC movies, but that TV show grouping is tough because they generally don't age well.
Yeah, but that book is based on the TV show. It's not like if they do a Spider-Man movie or they do a Daredevil series. I mean, those are doing the things based on a book that's got a history. Without the TV show, the Walking Dead comic book is really nothing.
Well, I think the show's based on the book, though. I mean, the book came first.
Did the book come first?
Yeah, it
did.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, the show is what gave the popularity to the book for price-wise.
Because I'm sure as well. I used to watch it. I mean, I've started to watch it again. It died out in like 5, 6, and then I picked up again, and it's okay. Like it's better now than it was, a few years ago. But it's gonna die out soon, and they have changed a lot of the continuity between the book and the show. Whether that goes down well, quite a bit. Whether that goes well,
Daryl was not in the comic as far as I recall.
Yeah, and a lot of the deaths were totally different from the show to the book. So for diehard fans as well, I don't know how well that goes down, but I 100% agree. I was looking for that last year. I looked at the price. It was like, no. It's going to drop, and I'm not.
I've never seen a book so closely tied to a TV show or a movie. Even Guardians of the Galaxy was around for many years and decades before the movie came out. They're not tied to each other, although that certainly boosted the book and the characters. But the comic book and the show seems so intertwined in popular culture that I don't think one will survive very well without the other.
I think I look at Preacher #1. That was a book that was tied as closely to a show as Walking Dead was, and it came on the heels of Walking Dead, and people immediately believed that because now, if you're getting a show, that means the book's going to go and it's going to be hot and it's going to be valuable forever. And that book was super expensive, ridiculously expensive, and the show basically was a flop with the comic book fans. They didn't relate. It was too different than the book. Now, some people still like the show and all that, but I have never heard anyone say that it was close to the book. So, and that one has dropped over the last year ridiculously. It used to be you had to $700-800 for a decent copy of that book. Now it's like $150 or less. That book has just dropped to the floor. And you see them everywhere now.
Well, I mean, look at that with Umbrella Academy. That shot up. I mean, I work in a comic store, and I've never seen the amount of amount of people that walked in that store that I've never seen before try and pick up those books. Now, I'm not saying the show is not good. It is, but you can see how the shows and the films affect comics, regardless whether they're going to flop or not. The tie-ins to those shows to those books make a big difference. And I mean, it depends on this is the problem with spec books because it's like a rush at the start. It's good to get it, to flip it and stuff like that, but you never know when that price drop is going to happen. It could be a couple of years, it could be in a couple of days or a couple of hours for all we know, and that's one of the problems. But you can see how much of a jump it is from the shows or the films to the books.
Yeah, people are saying there's still a lot of spec and interest in Walking Dead 1 and to hold on to it for now. I think that regardless of whether it has a higher floor than some of us might be expecting, it still probably has already peaked and is on the and will be, if not already on the decline, will be on the decline pretty soon. And it may not drop all the way out like someone else has said. It might lower, but it won't fade. And I would agree with that because there's still so many people who still want that book. I'd like to have a copy of that book because I was a fan of the show for 4 seasons and then I gave up on it.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing: if you have the book and you like it, don't sell it. I mean, if you have stuff you like, keep it because you like it. If you want it and you don't have it, I would wait. And if you just own it because of the value and you're not tied to it emotionally, you don't really care about it, I think now's the time to sell it. But if you just like something, keep it. It doesn't matter what the value is. But for investing purposes, there's a lot of people buying those and slabbing them and flipping them. People buying them from the flippers to flip them and invest them and whatever. And the other thing that hurts that book is the overexposure of it from like con exclusive covers and variants. I mean, that has probably had more con specific exclusive release covers than any book in history. There's probably multiple ones from each con in the entire country over a decade. It's insane the number of Walking Dead variant covers, con exclusives for that book. I've never seen it. It's just an overexposure, and it just floods it where it. I don't really know how to explain it, but when something gets so overexposed like that, and then a big chunk of it, like the TV show, goes out of popular culture, it doesn't seem special anymore because it's everywhere. Maybe not that particular issue, but people just see it everywhere, and it sort of takes on like an X-Force 1 type feeling. Do you know what I mean? Where everybody jokes about it, or Turok 1 or something that's out there
everywhere
in spades. Even if it's not the Walking Dead 1, there's just, everybody sees Walking Dead when you check eBay for comics or auction sites or whatever. It's just overexposure and the lack of the show. I think that value is not going to hold.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Seawood said that at one point, Wizard World made a Walking Dead 1 variant for every con they had.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How many were there? I mean, how many of those are there? I don't know. I'm not a con expert, but I mean, I remember one Comic Connect auction had 1,600 books in it, and I scroll through every single one for stuff I'm looking for. And the last 300 books in that auction were all Walking Dead versions from con exclusives variants. So 1/5 of an entire Comic Connect auction was Walking Dead stuff. That's way too much.
Image First, Image does their Image First, which is kind of like a True Believers or Marvel Must Have, if you remember those as well. And they do an Image First every year and include Walking Dead in it. So Image puts out a reprint of Walking Dead every year. That they do that run. They do Image First run every year, and they put a variant cover of Walking Dead out every year. So it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, Silver Age Dave said that the Walking Dead 1 is still over 2K. Okay, I mean,
wow.
I mean, like I said, half the time I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and the other half of the time I'm right, and it makes me look smart. So it's 50-50 whether I'll be right on this, but that's just my personal view.
And
You were close.
AG Surfer and Seawood said that there's 10 to 12 cons a year that they do. So that's a lot of variants, man.
Well, I mean, there was that Comic Connect auction, literally was several hundred, like 200 to 300 books. Yeah. And there were no repeats. There were no doubles in that auction. And they've done a couple auctions like that. It's frustrating because when I get to the W's, there's still a lot of good PCH books that have W's, like Weird in the title, or World of Fear or something like that. And the beginning of the W starts with Walking Dead, and I'm scrolling through pages and pages and pages and pages, and I'm like, man, this is like never ending. And then it gets to the end, they don't have anything else, and it just ends with that. And it's
they do a
impression on me.
Festival every year in Kentucky because they have because Robert Kirkman's from Kentucky, so they do a Walking Dead festival every year here in honor of him, and he comes to it most of the time. So it's like, and they do parades, and so Walking Dead's pretty big in Kentucky. So it may last for a while here, but I agree. I think the overprinting, the reprints, and the eventual decline of a TV show, because there's no TV show that lasts forever, no matter what you do, no matter how many spinoffs you have, and no matter how many things. I think you still have to 15 or so years out from the last episode, you have to have someone nostalgic for it. And I don't think that that's the kind of genre that lends itself to nostalgia. It'll just have replication or reboots or more things going on later.
Yeah, and I'm not just dissing on modern comics. I know some people are like, oh, he's a Golden Age collector. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He hates moderners anyway. I rip on anything I think is overvalued. I've been ripping on Instagram on pre-code horror books that the prices are through the roof, and there's people commenting and telling me how I'm wrong, and that's fine. But I mean, there's a couple books that have sold in the last couple weeks, Golden Age horror, that I love, that I'm like, man, people are crazy paying this price. This is way overvalued. And there's still people telling me I'm wrong on that. But, so it's not a modern versus whatever I collect. It's just, that's what I think of that, among other things. But
yeah, no, I understand that completely. But when we were talking about variants before, I'm a variant collector. I like variants. You guys can see some of the variants that are behind me and stuff, and I do collect them and put them on my channel. But I think variants are, they should be, for the A should be just the cover of the comic, which comes with the comic as normal, and then you should just get the B cover, whatever that B cover is, whether you want it or not. That should be it. There should only be like several other variants for like special events. So like Action Comics 1000, Detective Comics 1000, X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, or something like that. Like not that many though. Like I think that hurts books as well when the Walking Dead one, there was so many reprints or so many variants that were, or like in-store variants as well, that that can hurt it as well. And I think, I don't know why that bugs me so much, but I just think that it should just be A and B. There shouldn't be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1.1, 2.2, whatever. I don't know. It just kind of bugs me. And I think that it will decline very, very fast. Considering that it's nowhere near as popular as it was. Like Bob said, I mean, he stopped at, what was it, the fourth season? Because that's when I was, and I just jumped on it now. So, and fourth season was what, 2-3 years ago? Yeah, I don't think it's as popular, so I think it's going to decline quicker than we think.
Yeah,
Well,
the
every show has
variants.
to run its course at some point, right? So you would.
And that reminds me of
have
like
to be some popularity, but I don't know if it's going to tank because, as I said, the comic was pretty popular even before the show, if I recall. So it just took it to a whole nother level, but I don't think it's going to tank totally. But
it's one of those books though
for
that
a modern book is ridiculous though.
It's one of those books though that you just need a little dip in demand because the supply is so high that a slight dip in demand will cause a crash. And it's not going to be instantaneous in like a day or a week or a month, but over a couple of years, you'll have the same number of people trying to sell it. And when you're putting them on eBay, which is the biggest comic marketplace in the world, and there's just slightly less people looking for it, sellers have to undercut their prices and they want to have the lowest priced one on eBay to sell it. And then somebody else go under that. And it's like this domino effect where people are selling for less and less. And then people see that and they start waiting and patiently looking for a copy at the price that they've seen them go for. And now sellers are screwed because there's, tens of thousands of copies out there in 9.8 looking to be sold. And there's not as many people looking. And the ones that are looking now see that they can get it cheaper and they'll wait and they'll pick their spots. That's what happens with other books. I see that happen all the time. And I think it'll happen with that one.
Yeah, if you're smart, that's the strategy to go. You don't buy when it's high. You buy when you can get it for a bargain, and that. But you're right, that variant craze. I mean, I'm old, so I was around in the '90s when the market was at the tipping point of going under, and I see a lot of similarities to what's happening now. Like McD was saying, the oversaturation and that. Now, people are buying it for the cover, not the comic. And what that means is that that's an artificial inflation of the comic market. And that's what led to the downslide in the 90s. And I just hope that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, very few of those like special variant covers and stuff from the 90s have held value. I mean, the Venom Gold, the black and white Spawn, which is not, I guess that came out like 98 or something, but there's very few of those that have held like solid value as investments, and most of that stuff just tanked. My favorite 90s covers were the I can't remember the name of the story arc, but it was a crossover with the X-Men, and there was 6 titles that had an issue that had that hologram on it. I love those. They had an X-Force and an X-Men.
Yeah, I've got that whole set. That was one of the first sets I ever collected.
Yeah, really cool. I love those, and now they're a dime a dozen. And they had even different variants. They had like a blue hologram, an orange hologram, and a green hologram, and nobody wants them now, and they're super cool. But,
yeah, because it depends as well, like how you're collecting variants. If you're collecting variants because, I don't know, you're a collector and you like it for the art, that's fine if it's a personal collection. If you're going to pick them up for, keeping them for later on and then going to try and flip them for later, like you said, DS, I personally don't think it's going to, like in the 90s, it's not going to hold up. There's nothing wrong with collecting variants. I just think that the oversaturation, like Metarog was saying, it's too much. Whereas if you have A and B, it's not, I think that's a smarter choice. That's, as a business choice, I think that's you can either pick up A or you can pick up B or you can pick up both, but there's no reason to have, like X-Men 1 and have like 90 covers for it. There's that hurts not just collectors and readers and flippers and stuff like that, but it also hurts comic shops as well.
Yeah, and it discourages completists because they don't realize that collectors are completists, and when you're a completist and they're putting out 15 covers, it's like, you know what, what's the point? And you'll just move on to something else, because it's almost, as a completist, completing anything is better than not completing something you love. It's almost like I'd rather, if this is almost a lost cause, I'd rather go after something that I can complete, because the completist part of it is very satisfying, and they're alienating that part of the collector. And then, look, when you have a 1 in 25 variant, or a 1 in 50, or a 1 in 100, like these high ratio, quote, rare variants, yes, it's rare, but rare variants are not rare. Rare variants are common, and they're undermining the value of a rare variant by having so many of them. A rare variant is a common thing. There's maybe any particular one, but I mean, people can go back and forth to ones they like. It undermines the value of the rarity when they're common, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, yeah. Because you'll see that when it says, like you said, 1 in 50, or only 1,000, or only 500, and it may say that, or it may seem like that, but it's not. Like when you go on eBay and stuff, like you said, you can pick these up, and you can go in between whichever ones you want to pick up now. It's not as rare as what people may think, or maybe even new starters who are just picking up this hobby. They'll fall in that trap, which is a shame, because I just think that kind of puts you off from collecting, and especially if it's a character or if it's a run that you're really interested in, you want to complete it, like you said, that just throws you off completely.
Yeah, I think my problem with the multiple variants is that they remind me too much of like limited edition lithographs. Like, why not just put a bunch of posters out there and number them all and say, okay, there's 1,000 of these in existence, and who wants one? Good luck, get one. Or there's only going to be a 5,000 print run of this particular image. I think that makes it's pretty much the same thing. I think if you take that cover away, if you take the book that's inside of those variants away, it hasn't lost any value, because no one's going to open that anyway. They're all getting it, and they're barely touching it, and they're slabbing them and keeping them as pristine as possible. I just don't see that it's really a comic book anymore. It's just a art delivery system, and I think it costs too much to produce that, and it costs too much to buy that. I think it shouldn't be so exclusive. Just run a bunch of prints.
How do you feel if it was like, for example, this Red Hood and Outlaws 25 variant that I've got in the background? There, I read that story. I loved that story. 100%. I love that story, and the reason why I want to get the A cover just because I love reading that book and I would love to read it multiple times. But I picked up that cover because it's not just because the story was good, but because of the sentimental value to the character. Like how do you think? What do you think about that? If that was like.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you think if people were collecting it for that sort of purposes?
Yeah, well, if you're picking it up because you like it, then that's totally worth it. The problem is they're marketing these not to people who like them, and I think 90% of these variants are being bought by people to flip, and the people that 90% of the people that are buying them are people that are buying it to flip it again. Only 10% of the people that are buying these things are buying them because they actually like it. And if you're one of those 10%, yeah, that's great. You should buy stuff you like always. But the variant cover craze is essentially a flipper craze. That's most of what it is. 90% of that stuff is going back and forth between flippers. And if you like it, you're golden if you pick it up because you got something you like.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that's what happened in the 90s, that the people outside the comic market were coming in, buying it for speculating at that point, right? That this was going to be, put my kid through college, that kind of thing. And then it was so mass produced that it would be impossible. I mean, when you think about it, it's an impossibility of what they're talking about. You have to catch lightning in a bottle. And I just don't want that to happen again. And again, it happened to the point where it put everybody off, like completists the completists, if they can't be complete, they just get out sometimes. They just say, forget it. And that's what I'm afraid might happen.
And a good example of this is Spawn #1. That, in my opinion, is a hugely historically significant book. That essentially, I know it wasn't the first Image book published, but it was the marquee Cadillac book of Image. And that was a paradigm shift in comics, and that ended the Copper Age overnight when Image started putting stuff out. And those artists left Marvel and started their own company, essentially. And Spawn 1 is the book that symbolizes that historic change in comics. And it's worth $100 in 9.8. You know what I mean? Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And they're just out there like crazy. And that hurts the value of it. It's a hugely historically significant book. That's what happens when they pump out so many variants of things today. There's just too many of them. There's too many of them. And
so what is the actual, in your opinion, what is the actual enemy then? Is it the variants that these publications are pumping out, or is it the fact that there are new people stepping in to buy them to then flip them? Is it the flipping that hurts them, or is it the variants, or is it both? Like,
I think it's well, let's just talk about Marvel Comics. I think the company is hurting it because they're not focused on the story or the art. They're just focused on making money. And what they found is they can do that because there's a whole culture of flipping in comics that will buy that stuff up. If those people stop buying it, Marvel would have to change, but they've got an audience that will buy it. So they're pumping out, #1s and new issues, and they're not focused really on the stories. It doesn't seem to have the quality that it used to have, but the covers is the main thing. Like, it's whatever. Let's just start a new series. Let's get, 10 variant covers. And they're doing, second printings used to be rare. Third printings were almost unheard of, and there was hardly any of them out there. And now every single book's getting second and third printings. They're doing True Believers on books that came out a couple years ago. And it's like they're just pumping out covers and novelty items and gimmicks because people are buying them up. And there's still good stuff out there, but you got to wade through this enormous amount of stuff that is just being thrown out as a sort of a gimmick, sell quick, make some money off people who are going to flip it back and forth for a few years. But I mean, that's my view of it. And, I used to buy new comics. I used to go to the comic shop. A couple of years ago, I stopped because I couldn't even deal with it anymore. I just got fed up with it.
No, that's fair enough. It's understandable. But my the other question as well is like, has the price gone up though? The reason why they're doing this for variants and stuff is the reason why they're doing it and doing so many. Is it because there's a decline within the comic book community as a whole? Because in my head, I have this feeling that if you were to do less variants and put the price down, people would be able to buy more comics for this. And like if you were producing a properly well-developed story with good art, and a great team and stuff like that, and you lowered the price with less variants, people would then be able to buy more of those books.
But we're not the customers of Marvel. Marvel's customers are the comic shops, and the way to make money off the comic shops is do a 1 in 50 variant, force them to buy 50 of the regular cover that will end up as back issues and hurt the comic shop's business. But they will have to buy 50 of those to get that one variant that they've pumped up to make customers want that one variant. So comic shops feel like they have to get it for their customers. But the comic shops are the customers that Marvel's taking money from. And they more of these high ratio variants they put out, more of the regular covers they sell so that the comic shop will get that cover. And it's just gouging the comic shops to buy all these regular issues that they're never going to sell. And they end up as back issues, and then comic shops go out of business and sales decline. I mean, if you go on Comic-Con, you can look back at the data like from the 80s, and the numbers are staggeringly higher than they are now for books that are being sold by Marvel. Like most of the books that Marvel's selling would be way down the list in the 80s and would be at a level that in the 80s they would have just got canceled for lack of sales. And these are some of the top selling books that Marvel has today.
Yeah. I think too that the price of the variants and the placements of the store exclusives where you're forcing people to buy online also damages the local comic shop, because in one way the comic shop is trying to prepare their stock in order to appease the customers or service the customers who are after those variants, so they have to buy in bulk. And then the next thing you know, which seems to always happen after these big long variant groups come out, that then there's a store exclusive that you can only pre-order online. Then you have artists that you have to go directly to their website to get their limited edition exclusive cover. And it just gets more and more pulling away the customer from the comic shop, because the reality is that if you want most of these variants, you're either going to end up getting them directly from some other retailer that you can only get to online because their brick and mortar store is states away, or you have to wait for it to hit the secondary market and be ready to pay whatever the going rate is. So you're automatic. So even with the same feeling of let's do this variant run and get people into the comic shops, you're then pulling them back out by having all these exclusive variants that are only available basically online.
Yeah, and there's some phenomenal artists out today. I see some of these covers, and they are just beautiful, great works of art. There's some great artists out there. How about less titles, less variants, less second printings, less gimmicks, and just let these artists do books and interior art and covers, and just put out a rock solid story by good writers and art by some of these artists interior wise, not just these guys where they just do a variant cover and that's the artist did the cover. I mean, let those guys do entire interiors too, and just cut the titles in half and stop doing all this crazy variant stuff. Just do the con exclusives. I get that. Draws people to cons. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know, have that stuff for the con experience, you know, the variants.
I don't even mind how DC do it. Like don't get me wrong, I do like Marvel, but I think that Marvel, like you said, they're oversaturating things a little bit too far now. Whereas DC aren't as bad, in my opinion. I think that where they're getting 1A cover and 1B cover, at least that's not as bad. You know what I mean? You can either pick or choose, or you can pick up both, whatever. It's not like a mass amount of saturated stuff where you think that it's overwhelming. You know, especially as a collector or a completist, you can't get them all. There's no way. I mean, if you do that, you're going to be broke.
Yeah, and Pope's asking, did anyone read Faithless #1? I don't think so. I mean, I think what's the sales on that book? Like, it's got to be like 1,000. I mean, wow. You know what I mean? The highest selling book in that title is probably like 2,000.
What is the publisher of that book?
I think it's a Marvel book. I might be mistaken. I think it's the Marvel book with the heavy-set superhero girl that flies.
No, that's Faith.
No, that's Faith. Okay, never mind. Just forget what I said. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's what I said.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
When it came out, and it was, I think it's an independent book, but I think it's also heavily risque. Is it Image? Okay.
Yeah. Oh no. Boom. Highly assessed. Boom.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a heavily risque book. I don't know much else about it except that it's gained a lot of traction for how, explicit it is.
Okay, this Boom. Yeah, well, if it's risque, Boom makes sense, right?
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been an hour and a half. We've rambled on. I don't know if we ever got to Roger's books. Did we get to any of your books?
No, because I didn't have any anyway, so that's okay. I broke this out, which I think McD saw my Mr. Miracle video, so I used this one, but that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a cool book, man. Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that this goes for $50 in your mint condition. I mean, this is like, this character hasn't been used in a decade, maybe. I mean, amazing to me. It's amazing.
Yeah. I like that newsstand. I gotta tell you, nice. I've been becoming.
They were all newsstand back then, guys. They were all newsstands.
I like that.
The tipping point for newsstands is 1987. Before that, most of the books are newsstands. After that, most of the books are direct edition. Yeah, so when you go back beyond 77, there are no newsstands.
Yeah, but unless there are no direct editions. Unless they were bagged sets, which would have blank here mostly, or the diamond, these were all newsstands until they got to 1980. Okay, 1979. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Dazzler was the first direct edition Marvel book.
Well, that was the first exclusive direct edition, but they had others that came through the direct market before that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just take a black marker to that barcode, I bet you can make another $100 off it.
It's a variant at that point.
The only direct edition variant. All right, guys, let's shut her down and let everybody get to poor Comic Geek McD. He's about ready to start his morning waffle.
It's 1:30 here in the morning.
Oh, goodness gracious!
Too late for haggis.
Always too late.
I don't like haggis, actually.
Yeah, who does? I don't know anybody likes it.
I do.
Who else but Roger would? I'll put it like that.
I do.
All right.
I own a kilt though, so you know,
Oh,
Nice.
obviously.
all right. That's good because that's how I imagine you, always under that desk that you have a kilt down there. So don't break that illusion of me. And bring
On
the
special
bagpipe
occasions.
next time, though. Bring the bagpipe next time, though. That kind of completes the set. You know what I mean?
Well, McD,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure you'll be relieved to know that I don't think about what you're wearing under the desk or your bagpipe at any time ever. So you can be sure I'm watching your videos with the purest of intentions.
Hey, we all have our quirks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, Roger. We'll visit that in another show. It's
I'm blushing. I'm blushing here. I'm blushing.
All right, let's do the round of goodbyes. Since you're our honored guest, McD, why don't you go ahead and say your signature goodbye?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank
Yes.
you so much for letting me come on to the show, guys. It's been a blast. I really enjoyed being on the show and talking to you guys. It was really good fun. So I'm really honored about that. And I can't thank you guys enough. So thank you so much. And with that, thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
I love that send off. I love
know,
it.
it's a good one. Go ahead, Roger. Let's have yours. We'll string
Well,
DS out.
I'm the chat today has been epic. I mean, this has been like, one of those, just mountaintop experiences here. These guys have been on fire. I mean, forget about fire, white flame. All right. And McD, you are a superstar of the highest nature. I am like beside myself that we actually got you on here. And I know it's late and you're sacrificing for us. And buddy, I appreciate that to death. And of course, my two co-hosts, nobody else I'd rather be on here with but these two guys. Guys, I am blessed. I want everybody here to be blessed and be back next week.
Thank you, Roger. And DS, you have any words of wisdom to depart upon us?
Yeah, thanks, McD, for being here. That was really fun. And thanks, everyone in the chat. Awesome. Had a really good crowd. I enjoyed it and look forward to next week.
All right, thank you. And
Do your homework.
And do your homework.
And do your homework.
And McD, I just want to say that I think this is the first chat where no one referred to you as the beard guy. So you're welcome for that.
Or glasses.
Yeah, glasses guy.
Glasses man, yeah.
Yeah,
love
because you don't show up here, so.
Well, that's why I like the no faces chat so much. I can just chill in the background and no one gets to see my face, so that's fine.
That's relaxing.
That's why I'm
It really
here.
is.
That's why I'm here.
Freeing experience.
Yes,
So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you being on the show. And of course, everything you've added tonight has been fantastic. And we hope to have you back again real soon. If you can stay awake. Well, don't stay awake till next time, but
I would be honored. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
All right. And so I'll tell everybody to come and thank you, of course, to my co-hosts, as always. They know how much I care about them. So thank you to the chat. It's been a phenomenal night. And we will catch you next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. So everybody go out and read a comic. Thanks. Bye.